Here we are again, Realms Deep in the Keep. We are joined yet again by Fred of 3D Realms. We've got Haducant, my producer here, and we've got the legend himself, Mr. Tim Willits. Thank you for joining us, man.
Yeah, it's a pleasure. Thanks for having me.
And so I kind of want to get a window into who you are and where you are now, just as a person, because we only ever really get to hear about Tim Willits, the video game designer. Like, who's Tim Willits, the guy? You got a bunch of kids, dude. What's going on in your normal life?
I'm much shorter in person than I am on the internet. That's always my joke when people meet me. But we can talk about anything.
First of all, like, what's going on day to day right now? It's a crazy time in the human history, and you're the. Let me make sure I get your business title right here. The Chief
Creative
Officer. Okay, so what does a creative officer do? What does a Chief Creative Officer do?
Man, everything. We've been so busy. It's crazy. So last year, after 20,000 years, I left in software and joined Saber Interactive. So I worked with the team at Saber on Quake Champions. Mm-hmm. And, I really, and it was just, at the time, it was just two guys that owned the company. Now Saber has been purchased by Embracer, so we're a much bigger company, which is exciting. But I loved what Saber did with all their games. Saber works in everything from first-person shooters to sports games, truck simulation games, ports like The Witcher 3 on the Switch. Mm-hmm. It was really exciting to get a chance to work on so many different titles. So basically what I do is I kind of have the 50,000-foot view on kind of this creative strategy of the company. And making sure that, the teams are thinking about the things they need to think about, working with the partners on whatever publisher that we're working on, working with our own publishing team, everything from game design to marketing to, future potential, ideas with other companies. So I do a little bit of everything. And before the end of the world happened, I was traveling all over the place because Saber has offices in Russia, Spain, and Portugal and Belarus and Sweden. So before I was stuck at home, I would say, I have the best job in the world. I get to travel to exotic places and make video games. This is awesome. Now I travel via Zoom to exotic places and make video games. So hopefully Europe will open up again and I can get back to visiting the teams. I know that was a very long answer to what are you doing today? But it's a little everything.
It makes for actual better clip content for the festival to just have you go on for as long as you want, because it's less cuts. Haducant gets to just phone it in that day.
You guys are trading messages. This guy won't stop talking, Sind. No, I'm just kidding.
Really fun to get to see you kind of work on projects other than what you're kind of famous for. We've known you all this time as like the first person shooter guy, and that's been, for 25 years, if I'm not mistaken, somewhere along those lines.
Like 95 to yeah,
since I was born. And now you get to oversee these projects that are wide arrays in video games. So when you look down the barrel of something like, I don't know, WWE Battlegrounds, mm-hmm. what kind of challenges, or maybe not even challenges, but what fun is it to kind of look at something that's totally different than what you're kind of used to and apply your creative process to that sort of a game?
So looking at everything from, SnowRunner to WWE, there are lessons from what we did at id for so long that do apply to really anything. Our games in the past were very fast, very precise. You had to educate players immediately about exactly what was going on. Feedback is critical in fast-paced arena games. So a lot of those lessons you can apply to these other games as well. Mm-hmm. Like for instance, if you've worked with me, you've heard me use this joke before. The worst part about animators is they like to animate, and a lot of times animators will make these really long, exaggerated animations. And in our games at id, everything had to be fast and quick. So I was always like, less animations, and that applies to other games as well. Get to the point as quick as possible. Gamers want to be engaged in the experience. I think those lessons that were so critical to first-person shooters can be applied to other games. I mean, even the gamification of how we reward people. you can see has gone across to many different platforms. And, sometimes a good idea in one genre can be just as good in another genre. It just needs someone to pick up that idea and carry it over. So hopefully at Saber, I can pick up ideas from one genre and carry them over to other genres.
Now, is Saber still involved in Quake Champions at this point? Are you actively working on it, or is it just?
Yes. So so that's Bethesda. Once I wrap things up there, then it was easy for me to move over to Saber. So if you want to know about the future of Quake Champions, ask Bethesda. Yes, arena shooters in 2020 nowadays, they are pretty tough, and they are pretty hardcore. This guy that I worked with kind of summed up how a game like Quake is viewed. Like, for instance, those of us that live in the Quake world, it's like living in a mansion. We love it. I mean, you've got chandeliers and gold staircases, and it's the most beautiful mansion in the world that we live in. Okay. But the people who don't live in the mansion outside look at it like a crack house.
Yeah.
Because it's like terrifying. It's so fast. It's so intense. And, if your skills off a little bit, you will get destroyed. Which is thrilling and exciting. And watching an arena shooter competitively is the most exciting game to watch, in my opinion. But for people that have not grown up in arena shooters or don't really have that dexterity, it's also terrifying. And I think some of the challenges as the industry moves forward with hardcore competitive titles is how we can bring more players into it, and have them be less scared. So that's definitely a challenge. And it's not just arena shooters. It's some games are becoming more and more hardcore. And as developers, we need to find ways to help people into our games.
Right.
Do you think the barrier of entry is one of the main challenges that arena shooters are facing?
Yes.
Yeah.
Yes. I mean, like my kids. I have 3 kids that are 16. I sat down with my son and I said, this is Quake, and this is how we play. Just watching them just get shot from a different direction and just the frustration of the speed, it's definitely difficult. So yes, I do really think the barrier of entry is kind of the biggest hurdle that these types of games need to get over. Because once you get over that, and once you're in it, you love it. I mean, you love it, but it's just getting you to that place is a challenge.
Well, I'd love to hear your opinion just in general about like the main competitors in, you're talking League of Legends, CounterStrike, Overwatch. To me, we're not the two of us, but we're not the same generation. But I was a young teenager when Quake came out, and looking at League of Legends and Overwatch and so on today, for me, I don't have any idea what's going on. It's just here's fireworks and colors everywhere, and watching that being played as an esport as well. I don't know what's happening, and I don't think I would have to invest too much time to learn. But a game like Quake Champions, I get it. Like, oh, here's a gun, run around, and if you get killed, you kill, and if you kill someone, you win.
So I have a theory about all that, and you guys can tell me if I'm right or wrong, because I agree with you. When I look at MOBA style games like League of Legends, it's so confusing. It's just like, oh my god, just give me a railgun and let me go.
Yeah.
But millions of people follow this, and and I know that there's a dexterity component to those games, and the esport athletes that play those are true athletes. But the physical skill kind of dexterity of playing a Quake game is kind of like, watching stars play basketball. So, and I think when you watch something like League of Legends, you can see it as a mental game. Mm-hmm. And that most people believe that if they dedicate enough time and energy, they can mentally figure it out, and they can mentally, so they can know that it is doable. Okay. But when I watch like Michael Jordan dump a basketball from the free throw line, I know that I will never be able to do that. Yeah. And when I watch, a pro Quake player do the shots and perform the actions that they're performing, I view it as a physical dexterity skill that I personally can never do. But I feel when I look at the other games that it's more of a mental exercise. So I feel that arena shooters are even more intimidating because there's almost this physical barrier to the challenge. Whereas some of those other games, which I understand that there's a physical challenge as well, but it doesn't seem the same. Does that make sense? Am I making sense?
Tell you from experience, absolutely, having talked to people of my generation when they first see Quake, right? All of them know that Quake is a thing, but they literally, as you said, they actually look at it and say, "That's not even perceivable." Like I could never conceive of possibly doing that. It's almost a superhuman type thing when one hitting somebody with a rail, popping out a rocket gun, and start spamming the other team members. Mm-hmm. That is so much action in such a small amount of time that most people that are not privy to, their brain isn't used to functioning at that pace. It's just not something that they could really see themselves doing. When you watch someone play CounterStrike, it's so grounded in realism that, yeah, I could see myself doing that in real life. I've played paintball before, of course. So I think that's where it comes from.
Yep. So I think that makes it more difficult. And yes. So I'm glad you agree.
Tim, you came into the industry specifically by making your own maps, right? Mm-hmm. And then you get to work on, the Ultimate Doom and everything. I don't want to get into the history of oh yeah, you entered it in software and stuff necessarily because you've told it a million times. But what made you want to make maps and how did you see the craft of that at that time?
Yeah. So my older brother, because I'm 48, mm-hmm. and my brother is 6 years older than me. And so when I was a kid, he was playing Dungeons and Dragons with his friends.
Right.
And I love the fact of, you get the modules, which were like DLC at the time. And, you would have, campaign, and you'd unfold the paper, and these are all top-down drawings.
Right.
You have top-down drawing, a little town, and then a little dungeon, it's on grid paper. And I was fascinated by drawing paper Dungeons and Dragons maps and little towns and things, even though I never really played a lot of the game. So when, the first Doom came out, because I never played Wolfenstein 3D because I didn't have a computer that could play it.
Right.
Which is kind of embarrassing to say that I never really played Wolfenstein 3D until I worked at id. But what was so fascinating about the game is that I could do kind of that Dungeons and Dragons map design, mm-hmm. in a real world. And I distinctly remember thinking there's an infinite amount of things that I can build in this world. So building maps was truly amazing. The fact that you could build something and you could walk through it, for me is awesome. And I know it sounds silly, but it was, it really came down to building those maps, and then moving in this world and feeling like I could literally create anything I could imagine. Like if I was a kid when Minecraft came out, I would totally be one of those guys making these giant Minecraft worlds that you see. So that's why having tools, having games like Minecraft, where that allows young people to build these worlds, I know that there will be some amazing game designers that will come out of that as well.
Well, Tim, we're well beyond the agreed upon time, so I would just want to say, if anybody has any last final questions before Tim has to get out of here.
I do have a quick question, and this one is for somebody else I know that's designing maps. They have a hard time, and I do too, with focus. Do you have any suggestions for streamlining? How do I word this properly? Do you have any? Crap.
I love how nervous you get.
Just watch map sprawl, because map designers will make something and they'll end up here, and they're like, oh shit, how do I get back to here? And then they have to build a bunch of stuff.
I want to have everything in the map. Then I want to test it out.
Well, that's the fun part. That's the details.
Yeah. Well, draw out real quick. Be conscious of map sprawl. Don't worry too much about detailing it all out. Build a layout that you're familiar with, that you're comfortable in, and then constantly think about map sprawl. Be careful if you head way on here, because then you have to get yourself all the way back here. Draw it out first, and set a timeline for yourself. Give yourself 3 weeks to get it done. Well, it was a pleasure talking with you guys. I had a good time.
Really appreciate it.
Thanks very much.
Pleasure is all ours, man. Thank you so much for joining us, Tim. And thanks for wanting to talk to Ty and Haducant. They are huge fans, and they grew up with your work, and so did I. So I'm sure it was a big moment in their careers to get to talk to you here.
Cool. Well, I appreciate it. You guys have a good afternoon.
Take care.
Yeah, thank you very much.
Absolutely. Take care, man. Talk to you later.